We have officially arrived at week 4, and it's time to preview the CBS Game of the Week between two Big Ten opponents. And get used to hearing this, USC at Michigan in the regular season. This is the 11th time we're getting this series. 8 of those were Rose Bowl matchups, including the last one in 2007. Now, USC won that one, and with a win in this one, they would complete their third straight 3-0 start. But you want to hear a streak. How about Michigan, winners of 22 straight conference games? So excited to break down this matchup with our friends Chris Trevino from USCFootball.com and Sam Webb from the Michigan Insider. Guys, it's like a Rose Bowl in September and the Big Ten opener for USC at the Big House. I mean, does it get any bigger than this? How many times can I say big during this segment? We're going to test it. But let's start with what's at stake for each team in this one. Chris, kick us off with USC.
It means a whole lot for USC and this Lincoln Riley team. I mean, the expectations for this team were all over the place. Nobody knew what to make of USC going into this season after the disappointing season in 2023, a new defensive coordinator, a new defensive staff. They were a big question mark. And through the first 2 weeks of the season, including their bye, they have impressed across the nation, beating LSU and then shutting out Utah State. They have a lot of momentum. They have a lot of juice. And now people are talking about them as a legitimate college football playoff contender and a contender in the Big Ten up there with Oregon and Ohio State. So a win in the Big House in their Big Ten debut in this primetime game for CBS would mean everything and give them another juicy resume win for their college football playoff. So this means a whole lot, and especially going in as a favorite if they can handle the target on their back.
Emily, for Michigan, it's the complexion for the season. Coming in, they were looked at the national title contender again, certainly a Big Ten title contender. But after the week 2 blowout loss to Texas, a lot of teams, a lot of people across the country thinking that Michigan is going to fall off the map. If they go out and lay an egg against USC, I think people are going to think that they are not going to be in the picture at all. So if Michigan can't get it together this week, if they can't show that they are back and to be reckoned with, then they're going to be considered an also-ran. So there's a lot at stake. They have to show that they have a pulse offensively because through 3 weeks, I think you saw all the losses that they had offensively really took a toll, certainly at the quarterback position. They're still looking to find a way. All the losses along the offensive line, losing 5 offensive linemen. They haven't been able to recover from that. The wide receiver position. So have to find an identity offensively, and then defensively for all the returners that they have on that side of the ball. They've shown some leakage over there, and they have to show that they have the star power that can actually produce at a championship level. This will be a great test to show that they can actually do that.
We'll talk about both defenses in just a little bit, but let's start with offense. I mean, Alex Orji is going to get the start at quarterback, the first start of his career. So, Sam, how does this change what Michigan wants to do on offense? You mentioned that identity. How does this change that, or maybe solidify the identity?
Yeah, it's a great question, Emily, a great question. Identity-wise, I think the Michigan coaching staff would tell you that you look at their playbook, and coming into the season, it's the same. Their play sheet was the same. They're running the same menu that they had last year. But, I've never coached before. But my philosophy is your identity is what you can do. And they can't do what they did last year. They can't be the kind of balanced offense that they were last year. And I think with Alex Orji, you lean even heavier into your run game. Now, all the same plays are in the playbook, but I think the frequency of some of your quarterback runs that were in there with J.J. McCarthy, I think the frequency of some of those plays move up the play sheet. So a lot of your quarterback draws and your bluff runs and, your zone reads, a lot of that play menu moves up the board. And now some of the things that you saw over the first 3 games, especially in the Texas game where Texas didn't respect their run game as much. And in so doing, you didn't see the play action game be as productive. In the game, maybe that becomes more productive. Maybe now you get some of those shot plays come back to the fore And then he has to show that he can actually hit those plays, something that they didn't really test. He hasn't really gotten an opportunity to show he can throw the football down the field. He's going to get that opportunity now, and then he has to show he can actually hit those plays. And if he can, Michigan suddenly becomes relevant in the Big Ten title picture and the national title picture again.
Yeah, our Brad Crawford saying this is essentially an elimination game for Michigan when it comes to their college football playoff chances. So a lot riding on this quarterback change. On the other side, though, I feel like the identity for USC has been clean football, especially for Miller Moss. 72.7% completion percentage, no picks so far in the season. So, Chris, what is it about his skill set that works so well in this Lincoln Riley offense?
I don't think it's fair to call Miller Moss a game manager. He's more of that field general for USC, and he's a different type of quarterback than Lincoln Riley has worked with. You know, he's not a Jalen Hurts, he's not a Kyler Murray, he's not a Caleb Williams, but he plays to his strengths. Lincoln Riley recently said, you know, Miller Moss might be one of the smartest quarterbacks I have ever coached, and that's a big praise coming from Lincoln Riley, obviously, but Miller has been the same guy we've seen since his high school days, and he is a smart quarterback. He knows where to get the ball. He's going to get the ball out fast, and I think that's something he's really been doing. And he's not going to take huge risks and put the ball in play in dangerous spots where a turnover could kill a team. He's going to be calm. He's going to be poised. He has the locker room around him, and that is what kind of just made him a perfect QB for this season. They've been unheralded, and Miller Moss, you know, has been a long-time backup, but he's the perfect quarterback to lead this team, a team with a lot of chips on their shoulder, and he's just been, you know, so poised and calm and leading them. He's not going to be a runner. He can run, though, so we wouldn't be surprised if we saw him some of that, but he's just going to keep everyone calm, everyone poised, going to get everyone up on the sideline, ready to play, and not put the ball in danger.
It's fun to talk about these offenses, but ultimately I know both defense want to make life difficult for these quarterbacks. So defensively, how do you evaluate your respective teams on defense, considering all the changes the units went through from last year to this year? Sam, let's start with Michigan.
Well, I think for Sherrone Moore, a big key was with the turnover in the coaching staff was to try to keep as much the same as possible with scheme. And so he went and got Wink Martindale, the guy that Jesse Minter learned under. You know, the guy that basically D'Anton Lynn, the USC defensive coordinator, he's the godfather. Wink Martindale is the godfather of that defense. And so what you've seen, though, is that as the scheme is the same, even though you come in and he's kind of putting a lot of the same play calls in place, you still have some new pieces that have come to the fore. So you got a young corner in Jair Hill in there. You got some transfers that have come in. So a lot of the same play calls, you still got some new pieces that are learning those play calls. So it is kind of slowed down the pace of those guys being able to go out and execute. And you've seen Michigan kind of give up more plays than they're accustomed to giving up. And they haven't been able to get off the field on third down in the way that you would like to see. And that was a real big issue against Texas. First half of that game, Texas was 8 for 10 on third down conversion. Last week against Arkansas State in the first quarter of that game, Texas' first series of that game, Texas was pretty successful on third down before Michigan tightened up. So I think a big key for Michigan is going to be third down defense. They're going to have to try to confuse Miller Moss. You heard Chris talking about he's a very smart quarterback. I think he's going to benefit from seeing a defense that he's going to be kind of familiar with, at least schematically, seeing a similar defense in practice every day. So the challenge for Michigan is going to be, how do you confuse a smart quarterback that's used to seeing a very similar scheme, and you have some young players or some new players to your scheme that have shown some leakage? You got to tighten up, try to confuse them, try to pressure them without giving up too much in your defense, a defense that has given up some things in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Obviously, it's a new scheme for USC under D'Anton Lynn, but just the mentality and the back to basics foundations that this coaching staff built over the offseason is why you're seeing such a vast improvement for USC's defense in 2024. They were one of the worst tackling teams last season, and this year there are some missed tackles, but what you're seeing is there's multiple guys around the ball. So if the first guy misses the tackle, it's okay because there's 3 other guys to pick up the slack for him. Their physicality is just a 180 from last season. Go watch the LSU tape. They're going toe-to-toe with that LSU offensive line. They are bullying them at times. Eric Henderson, this D-line coach coming from the Rams, has totally transformed the front of USC's defense and their mentality across the board. D'Anton Lynn has preached this mentality of, yeah, you may get a big play on us, but you have to earn your touchdown. You have to earn your points. So they could give up a big 30-yard run, whatever. You're still not in the end zone, and you are going to have to go through this entire defense to get to that end zone. They're kind of playing with this newfound edge, and yeah, the new scheme has been great. They've been very versatile. They've been very creative. But just having this new physical front and this new energized mentality has really transformed how they look and how they play on the field.
Also coming off a shutout for the first time in over a decade. So excited for this one. Thank you both so much for the great breakdowns. You can check out more of their work at uscfootball.com. Keep it locked in for all things Trojan football, and of course, the Michigan Insider for everything you need to know about the Wolverines. These two writers you just heard from and their entire crews have you covered all season long.